Hi, everybody. It's Erin and Maggie. We are back to discuss this upcoming new moon in the sign of Scorpio that's happening on November 1st. So, hey, Maggie.
Hey.
All right. So, to start, let's talk about what a new moon is because I find it surprising that a lot of people, like even in the astrology community, sometimes seems confused about where the moon is when it's new. So, a new moon is where the moon and the sun are at the same point in the sky together. They make a conjunction to each other. You can see that here in the sign of Scorpio, here in the first house of this chart, where the sun and the moon are both at 9 degrees, 35 minutes of Scorpio. And so why we call this, like a dark moon is because the moon is not visible to us because it's obscured by the sun. So it's in the same position of the sky as the sun. So at night, the sun and the moon are now below the horizon together, and then there's no moon up in the sky, which is why it's dark. Because sometimes I've heard people say, "Oh, the moon's still there, you just can't see it, like it's still up there." And it's not. It's down there. It still exists, but it's, under
Yeah.
below the horizon, kind of like underneath the earth from our perspective where we are. Does that make sense? Did I miss anything?
No, that does make sense. And it is there's no light, right? Because normally the sun is what makes the moon light up. But
Yeah.
because they are so close together, there's no light. So dark moon.
Yeah,
Yes.
the moon is typically when we can see the moon at night, it's reflecting the light of the sun. But
Yeah.
because it's conjunct the sun, it's combust technically, although we don't use that for luminaries.
Yeah.
But they're so close together that the moon can't reflect the light of the sun.
Right. So then it's more about almost bringing something full circle or to a closure so that we can begin again. So it's not really like a new beginning quite yet, right? It's more about bringing something all full circle, which I know we say a lot happens with the full moon, but that's just because the light is there still. But right now it's over. The cycle is over. We're
Yeah,
starting a new moon cycle.
it's the closure of the cycle. So when the moon meets the sun in the sky and is new, forms this conjunction, then it resets the lunar cycle. And then the
Yeah.
moon starts to travel past the sun and starts to make aspects to the sun. And that's when we see the different phases of the moon. So then halfway through the cycle, we see the moon across from the sun, and that's a full moon. And that's kind of the culmination point of it's the halfway point where everything has built up to there, and then there's a waning when then the moon comes back down towards the sun again. And then the new moon is that reset. So this is
Mm-hmm.
when we're working with the moon. This is the time to start a new cycle, to set your intentions, to start to put things, kind of formulate your intentions so that as the moon then waxes and gets bigger, and it can then grow that energy and that intention, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It's about for this moon in particular, because it's in Scorpio, it is a lot about what am I done with and what do I want to start again. It's that transitional phase, right? I'm done with this old cycle. It's over, it's complete, and I'm going to set intentions towards the next cycle, which is usually about a 6 month period. But we do see that this new cycle, it does take us on a journey, its own month, its own time, right?
Yeah, why do you say it's a 6 month cycle?
Usually that will take us to the full moon in Scorpio.
Gotcha. So let's talk a little bit about what the energy of Scorpio represents. And when we have a new moon, that is the moon and the sun both being in the same sign. So we are in Scorpio season right now,
Hmm.
with the sun having moved into Scorpio, and now the moon meets it. And so you can look towards, especially here in the northern hemisphere, you can look towards nature to kind of see a lot of the Scorpio themes. And
Hmm.
what we see is, when I look outside, all of the leaves, the trees are shedding their leaves, the plants are starting to, their growth is dying and energy is moving back down into the roots. And so Scorpio has this quality of shedding, of letting go, of death and dying, so that transformation can occur, and of kind of like going deep down.
Yeah, exactly. It's a lot about shedding old skin, it's that whole year that we just went through. And it's sort of like, you know, it's done. We're in fall now. Everything's coming to an end. And it is a very transitional phase. And it's not like dark and dreary like a lot of people assume Scorpio to be. If you do look outside, well, it's sunny here today, but it's beautiful. The leaves are all colorful. Sure, they're all falling to the ground, but I think it's a very beautiful time of year. And it's very much about being happy or being blessed or being joyful about the fact that we get to end one cycle and begin a new one. It's like closure almost. We're done with one phase, we get to open a new cycle or start a new cycle or open a new door, right? Something along
Yeah.
those lines.
And I think for me, there's something just so innately magical about this time of year as we move toward into Scorpio season and into Samhain, and it's where the veil
Mm-hmm.
becomes thin, and there is that kind of honoring of the dead and our ancestors who have crossed over. And I think that there's just something like that, to me, kind of encapsulates the depth of Scorpio. And Scorpio is this water sign. I always think about with Scorpio this kind of like underground water sources, like underground caves that have water in them, like the emotion that's really deep and below the surface. It's not, um, readily available. You kind of have to go down deeper into yourself or your psyche or other people to find that kind of connection.
Yeah, very true. And it just happens to be happening on November 1st, which is All Saints Day or the Day of the Dead, which
Yeah.
is a time of the year where a lot of people do celebrate their ancestry, their roots, right? That depth of like the cycles that brought us into existence. And it is a great, that again takes us back to the beauty of this. It doesn't have to be all dark and scary and dreary and like, oh no, everything's ending. It's something about celebrating endings, or our ancestries or people who have passed. It's really a fresh start.
Yeah, through the lens of transformation, right? Even
Mm-hmm.
if we're talking about ancestry and that crossing over, it's that our loved ones have transformed, right? And transitioned from this physical earthly plane to another realm. And so Scorpio carries with it that, like you said, the shedding of a skin. It's very much this transformation of outgrowing our previous self or identity and transforming into something um, more aligned with like our highest self. So
Yeah,
that is like the energy to tap into this new moon.
yeah, it's very much beyond the physical realm. It can see from a different perspective or evolve past that very ground level. You think of a scorpion, right? It's very low to the ground. It hides somewhere all the time. You'd really have to go look for a scorpion to be able to find one, right? So it is very hidden. It is very mysterious. It can, cause pain and strife, when a scorpion decides to attack.
Oh yeah.
But that's because there's something very vulnerable here. It is a water sign, but it is fixed water. So it doesn't really like to talk about those that depth of emotion. It's very protective of that energy, likes to keep it hidden. um it's very psychological too, right? This is stuff that's like in the back of our minds, or pain and trauma that we just don't want to deal with. It's too hard, it's too painful. But this is a great time to kind of shed that old perspective or move past that and try to look at it from a different point of view. And that's where we get that phoenix rising energy, right? We eventually come out of the scorpion and we're like, okay, it's time to stop hiding anymore. And I'm going to rise above this, and I'm going to take the strength back, and I'm going to control it. And that's going to be very empowering. And Scorpio is a very powerful sign, very powerful. It's just being in control of fear and pain is something that is very hard to control, right?
Yeah.
You know?
So two
Um,
things that I wanted to add to what you said is, that's why everything that you just said about with the energy of Scorpio and Scorpios being private and not really wanting to like be vulnerable or be seen, wanting to keep things hidden. I mean, that's why the moon is at its fall here in
that's
Scorpio,
true too.
right?
Hmm.
Versus being exalted in the sign of Taurus. So it's not necessarily a comfortable place for our inner realm and our emotions to dwell or to work with, but it's through that uncomfortability, what's the right word, through being
Yeah.
uncomfortable, that we are able to transform and grow. And the other interesting thing that you brought up is that Scorpio is the only sign that has these different representations of it, where there is, we always think about the scorpion with Scorpio, obviously, but that's just one of the forms of Scorpio. There's also I've heard either a level called the gray lizard or sometimes the snake, and then the
Hmm.
phoenix. So
Yeah.
it's tied to all three, and you can kind of see the different ways that Scorpio's energy expresses through those archetypal representation
Yeah.
sign.
I've also heard it referred to as the eagle, like the eagle eye view. The
Yes.
phoenix rises into the eagle. And that's why Scorpio is so good, like can see things from a different point of view or a different perspective. If we can rise above that ground level or that surface level and get into the depth of what it is, right? It's scary. And I always talk about it like the depth of the ocean. Like, we do not want to go down there. We don't know what's down there. It's mysterious, it's unknown.
No thanks.
But sometimes we got to go for a deep dive to uncover the truth behind what's hidden. And that's the power of Scorpio. It's like fighting the fear and taking back control over your life so that you can feel that empowerment and be the eagle, right? And fly
Yeah.
above it all, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's
Um,
exploring those deep, like underground caverns and caves.
yeah, those caves you talked
Yeah,
about.
the caves, the caves. And so like this new moon in particular, the astrology right now is all, this whole month is really focused on this opposition with Mars and Pluto, which are both the rulers of Scorpio. The traditional ruler of Scorpio is Mars, and the modern ruler of Scorpio is Pluto. And this is just any aspects between Mars and Pluto are very intense, volatile, can be traumatic, just explosive, right? I always kind of
Mhm.
think of like the atom bomb kind of energy between
Yeah.
those two planets. And this new moon and really this whole month is dominated by that aspect, and to have both that aspect involve both of the rulers of this new moon is really interesting. I think it's going to take that Scorpio intensity and double down on it, right? Like it's going to be unavoidable for it to be intense. What do you think about
Yeah,
that?
you can't not feel this, right? Because Mars in Cancer has been bringing emotions to the surface that we might honestly be able to keep hidden before, or it's bringing stuff like up that we would normally keep very, oh, it's like underwater, like we said, like in the depth, right? Old cycles, old memories, the past, all that kind of stuff. And then Pluto's been in Capricorn for the last 15 years. It's sitting at that very last degree.
Get out
That's
already.
Yeah, and that's what Mars is doing too now. It's moving towards that very last degree of Cancer. It's almost like there's something that has been going on for too long that really needs to be dealt with. And Mars is sort of like that spark that's going to ignite the fire um, for that atom bomb in Pluto, right? That explosive energy. It could be, but it's also in a water sign. So it might get a little tampered down and not be able
Yeah.
to ignite that spark.
Or it might
Um,
not be like quite head on because Mars in Cancer is very much about like sidestepping. It doesn't move in a direct way. So it could be really intense, but not so much in your face. But
yeah, that's true.
in this chart with both Mars and Pluto being at the 29th degree, which is a critical degree and kind of the culmination period of the energy of that sign getting ready to then transition and let go into the next is really speaking to what you said about this need to like for whatever's been going on for too long to end. There's almost no choice
Mm-hmm.
in it. It's like all of the stuff's being brought up to the surface to be cleared away, whether we like it or not. But it's with the intended outcome of leveling up, of evolution, of transformation, right? Of kind of this spiritual growth.
Yeah, I definitely think it could be very empowering if
Mhm.
we use it. And that's why it's so important to look at the aspects here, because a lot of astrologers or a lot of people might be like, oh no, Mars Pluto opposition. That's super serious. But Mars is also making a nice trine to Mercury, who will be moving towards the very last degree of Scorpio. And I love Mercury in Scorpio. I think it's very investigative. It's very powerful. It's like another, oh, that whole other perspective that the mind can have. And it can kind of get into the higher levels of the mind. I like to think it's very psychic in that sense. And that's where like, when the veil is very thin like this, we may be noticing things we've never noticed before about certain things or how certain people act or some situations that are coming up. And we're able to see it from a different perspective because it wasn't presented like that earlier, and or through the last however long Pluto's been there, right? So we're getting to see it differently. And that's a lot about that transition or that transitional phase. Things are becoming serious and there's some stuff coming up and we're seeing it hopefully from a different light.
And that all of that water energy with this grand trine from Mars to Mercury to Neptune, making then a kite with Mars opposite to Pluto, has really the potential to tap into a lot of psychic gifts. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're saying with Mercury and Scorpio and that energy, you could really deepen that here, especially with Pluto and Capricorn, because even though Capricorn is an earth sign and ruled by Saturn, you wouldn't think it's super intuitive, but there is a real intuitive side to the sign of Capricorn that we see with the representation of it being a sea goat. Like there is this weird connection to water still with Capricorn. And so I wonder if I would say that this would be a good time if you're looking to deepen your connection to the spirit realm or to your own intuition, that this would be a fantastic time to work with those energies and set those intentions, because
Yeah.
certainly seems kind of set up to take action and to empower that with Mars and Pluto, and then with Mercury ruling the mind and Neptune in the mix, which is mysticism and spirituality and kind of blurs the boundaries between the
Yeah.
realms, right? And then just the new moon in the depths of Scorpio. It could be, and right after Halloween, Samhain, on the Day of the Dead, like this,
Yeah, basically on that day where
I'm here for
everything's,
it.
yeah, for sure. And Pluto's super magical, right? Super anything
Yeah.
taboo, the occult. It's like the ability to bring all that stuff into reality through Capricorn. So that there are a few sextiles there between Mercury and Pluto and Neptune. So there's like a great opportunity. There's the trine from Mercury to Neptune. Amazing opportunity there to really pay respect to the gifts that our ancestors used, because I think a lot of that stuff has been forgotten. There's a lot of tradition in Capricorn too. So we can all sort of like take what Mars is doing in Cancer, which does get us to the depths of roots, to ancestral lineage, family. You know, if women, a lot of women, that's a Cancer thing, the line of women throughout your
Mothers,
family. Yes, mothers.
the
And
maternal succession. Yeah.
exactly. And it's like using that energy and pointing it towards Pluto and realizing like how powerful we are and how powerful women are. And I think a lot of that has gotten put to the back burner because of the patriarchy in this society. So it's almost like women are coming forefront again. And I like that. I really like that. And our mystical powers. Not saying men don't have those powers, but women are just more open and more receptive to this sort of energy.
For sure. And even it's interesting that I'm just looking at this trine then from the sun and the moon to Saturn and Pisces too, which is the ruler of Capricorn. And that's interesting in terms of this really kind of being able to fully manifest. And so I'm like, fingers crossed with the upcoming US election
Mm-hmm.
that all works out that way. Let's
Yeah,
empower
not to go
women.
there, but we got to go there.
Sorry.
It would be really nice if a
We could
powerful
see this on
woman
a
came to the
more
forefront.
global scale. Yeah, but I digress. And then there's that second kite too, with Mercury, Mars, Neptune, and Uranus, which really could bring like this liberation, right? Freedom, kind of unexpected insights or um, evolutions. So I think that this is in particular like a very powerful new moon that we're coming
Yeah.
towards.
It's like a whole new beginning for not just like individuals, but for the powers in this world. Getting back to that sort of stuff. I think it's the beginning of something that's way different. And that has a lot to do with Pluto moving into Aquarius on November 19th. So that's like a really, and if you look at Uranus ruling Aquarius and that opposition between Uranus and Mercury. I love when Uranus and Mercury make aspects
Yeah.
because it doesn't, it's like taking that your lower brain and making it into the higher, like the higher mind, the higher level, getting those like great breakthrough epiphany light bulb moments, all that kind of stuff. It's like there's a whole different level of understanding happening in our world, which I really really like.
And then I completely agree with all of that. And then the other interesting thing is going to be, moving forward, and I don't have the exact dates for this pulled right now, but that when Pluto then moves into Aquarius and then we see Mars stationed to go retrograde, that then we're going to find another Mars-Pluto opposition, but it's going to be in Leo and Aquarius. So there is kind of
Mm-hmm.
this like evolution, this growth that now those same players are going to realign in that really powerful um, balancing push-pull of the opposition, but in the next sign. So there's kind of like a cog on the wheel has shifted or turned, and I'm
Yes,
interested to see
exactly.
how that plays out
Yeah, so what you're talking about is after Mars is retrograde. So it will make this
on that.
opposition to Pluto 3 times.
Yes,
Um, when they come back to the opposition at probably be still 0 degrees of Aquarius and Leo, it's
yes.
like, yeah, 0 degrees, another very critical degrees. It's like something's ending here,
A
but
new
we
start.
still, yeah, we still need like a few months while Mars goes into retrograde to really like feel through that
Yeah, to
internal,
understand the
e-
story.
exactly, that internal discovery of what this really means to me. And then the brand new start comes when they make that final opposition
Agreed. It's
or
going to be a
decide
process.
to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's going to be a process. There's going to be, basically, we're not done with this story yet. We're going to see
Mm-hmm.
how this continues to play out. But these kind of new seeds and intentions are being, planted, seeded here at this new moon. And so we'll have to just watch as that unfolds.
Yeah, how that story plays out. But individually, it's a really good new moon to use to set intentions towards almost like rebirth, right? Just getting out of that old skin, shedding old things. If we use this time to like physically get old stuff out of our system or out of our house, or, do a little bit of a revamp, it's a
I like
beautiful time.
purge, like
Yes, purge.
purging,
That's the word.
purge, detox.
Detox.
Like,
Yes. Any
yeah,
negativity,
that
just get it
needs
out of your
to just
system. Yeah.
let it go. And sometimes, and it doesn't have to be, working with intention does not have to be complicated. It can simply be like the thought or the idea can be the spark that starts it all, where you're just like, you know what? I'm done with this. I'm ready to let this go.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are lots of times when we know that we should let something go and we're not willing or ready to actually do it yet. So, give yourself some grace for those areas of your life too. But for the ones that you're just like done, that this has got to shift, right? Like this would be a great time to intend for it to do so. You could even, just light a candle and set that intention and say that when the candle burns out, that's it, it's done. Like it could be something so simple as that. Or just imagine kind of cutting the cords on whatever it is that you've been tethered to that you've outgrown.
Mm-hmm. I like that. I also really like, oh my gosh, I had it in my mind, but then it just went away.
And you're doing
Um,
it now. Usually I'm the one that does that at this point.
oh, emotions. grudges, things that you've been holding on to that you might not even realize, but like hard emotions, right? Because this is intense Scorpio stuff. It is a very emotional water sign, even if it doesn't like to admit that it's emotional. Those, that depth, if you can do like an emotional detox to the
Yes.
point of like, if you need to cry and just like let it all go, have a shower, go for a swim, water
Yeah, water,
cleanse
water
would
cleansing.
be awesome way to do that. Like have a bath.
So the thing about Scorpio too that we can take advantage of here with that is that when Scorpios are very deeply attached emotionally. To the point of sometimes the shadow side could be obsession, right? Or possession,
Yes, yeah.
that kind of intensity. Like they get their
Yeah,
stick,
it's the fear
right?
of letting go.
Yeah.
It could be like, I'm afraid to start a new cycle. I'm afraid of the unknown. I want to stay hidden. That's a good point.
But the thing about Scorpio is that if a Scorpio gets to the point when they're done, that's it. There is no coming back. It's cut,
Yeah,
severed,
cutthroat.
done. Yeah, it is. It is.
It is
It's
intense. Yeah.
like, so this could be, work with that. Like if there is something that you've been wanting to let go of or not carry, that kind of like toxic emotions, this is the time to like finally once and for all like be done with that.
Hmm. I like that trine for between Mars and Mercury for that
Mhm.
too. It's sort of like the outlet to all of this because it is so deeply psychological that sometimes we don't realize. And Mars is bringing up a lot. I keep saying it, but family dynamics, stuff about the past. Like we don't really realize how deeply that may have wounded us or caused some sort of insecurity, and it plays out in our mind. And where how we get those like intrusive thoughts like you're not good enough, you can't do this,
Yeah, these
it's
beliefs.
too hard, it's too scary, that sort of stuff. A lot of this we can use that energy to just cut that off, cut that out, stop talking to yourself in like negativity, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it would be
Especially with other people too.
it would be a time too to like look at those kind of familial patterns and ingrained beliefs and reassess whether or not they're actually ours or if they've just
Mm-hmm.
been passed down, these kind of um deep ancestral patterns that we may not even realize like we don't subscribe to or align with.
Yeah, if we're talking from like mother to mother to mother, like that stuff can be handed down to
Oh
us. We
yeah,
don't even
for sure.
realize where it came from. Something our mother taught us, and now we unconsciously do it
Yeah.
or project it onto our children without even noticing.
Oh God, we're so fascinating people.
um, yeah. And that might be why the grand water trine will be a little tricky. Neptune can be a bit nebulous and it can make us think things that aren't really true, or there might not be clarity there about certain things that come up. So just watch this energy because it could be really triggering, because a lot of this stuff is, it's old, it's an unwanted energy, and sometimes we don't even realize it's there until a trigger comes around, which can be that Mars Pluto opposition that put us in that mood or that emotion, and we're like, oh.
That's
you know
definitely Mars Pluto opposition is definitely like finger on the trigger.
yeah, this might be a lot of people's breaking point, right? So try to be gentle with other people and be
And
gentle
others.
with yourself first and foremost.
All right. Well, what else do you think? I think we covered a good amount of what we can
Yeah.
expect from this new moon and how to work with it. Um, do you want to let people know how they can work with you if they want to go deeper into their charts?
Yeah, for sure. I just have my page on Facebook made by Megs Astro. So you can find me there, or you can find me in the witchy group, that sort of thing. I'm always open to getting into the depths of other people's stuff.
Yeah, likewise. So you can find me on my website, which is erinlento.com, or on Facebook or on Instagram. I'm the Witch of Saturn. And then you can find Maggie and I in our Facebook group, which is Talk Witchy to Me, where we are active. You're like on there every day giving good
We
astro.
try to be active when
Yeah,
life
yeah. Oh, I mean,
doesn't
every
get in the
week
way.
we do our best. We do our best. We're juggling a lot. Um, but yeah, please feel free to reach out, and then we'll see you again for the upcoming, the next full moon in Taurus, right?
Yeah, there will be a full moon in Taurus next to that Uranus there. So that'll be fun.
That's exciting.
Another great one.
Comes with that. All right. Thank you so much, everybody.
Yeah. Bye.